Many people think that the oppression of women has taken place for 1,000 years, and it's only in modern time that women have liberated themselves. But this is not true. Going back in the period from 1200 up to 1700s, we can see in Europe village communities where women are very equal to men. Well, there might be a man having too much energy and suppress a woman, but women form a community together, and maybe 5-10 women go to this man and correct him. So in short, we can say that men and women in these villages were very much equal. Then there was a power fight between aristocracy and these villages, and in the 1700s it succeeded for the aristocracy to somehow destroy these villages totally. Up to then, the young people in the village were one gathered group working together with all things, building a house for a family, working in the fields, etc. during harvest, but after the suppression of the villages and the totally destroying in these villages, this working community vanished. We see also the sexuality in these villages, that it was very normal as a young person that you changed your lover maybe once a month, and during your adolescence you became a lover with almost everyone of the opposite sex in the village. As adults, you have a lover, but you had also several others as sexual close relationship. There was a lot of parties with sexual activities, so sex was a normal thing in your daily life. After the split of these villages, the land was divided, so each house had its own land, and many of the families moved away from the villages and settled down, had their own farm, had their own land. And then we had this social structure of several generations, and these extended families were very much interested in having land and farms. And so it was the father who decided who should be married to who, and if a couple were married, they got a farm, and maybe a family thought, okay, if I as a father married my daughter to this young man, then I can get this farm. So it was very much about having farms, that the marriage and the family was a kind of means for these possessions. Then there also came a religious awakening, and the idea was that Satan somehow entered children and women and was in their abdomen, and therefore a man had to spank his woman and the children regularly, and this continued up till about 1950. Where it was very regularly that a man spanked his woman. Today we still find a little bit of this. Maybe 1/3 of the families we see some action about spanking women. The young people wanted to liberate themselves and moved away from these extended families. They wanted to have their own house, their own farm, And then we have this generation where you have a man, his husband and children, but also your grandparents. And as soon as possible, the grandparents had their own house, so we ended up with the nuclear family that we have almost everywhere today. Today, many people think that society has to be changed. There's a lot of problems, and here they use the traditional split consciousness, where the right side is a consciousness about society and left side is a consciousness about family. And here they think that society consciousness has to be changed, but they do not think that the family consciousness should change. This cannot happen. It cannot happen. Because if you want to change one side, you have to change the other also. There's a lot of people today thinking that, oh, maybe we should re-establish the village communities. Then our consciousness will automatically change too. But this does not happen. If you want to change your consciousness, it is only you that you start working with your consciousness. Back in the 1670s, there were a lot of small communities, and in the beginning there really was a process where people tried in many ways to develop their consciousness in a more collective way. But already in the middle of the 1970s, we can recognize that this changed. So today, when young people move into a small community, they still have the traditional way of thinking and behaving. But in modern time, we have seen some experiments. Some had tried to really change consciousness. In Europe, in fact, we only have one of these. And it's, of course, in Berlin. Berlin is the center of Europe in about cultural behavior and alternative consciousness. And it was in the 1991 that started up a big community called SEC. And here they wanted to study consciousness and create a more liberated way of family, social structure, etc. In 1995, some of these Germans went to the South Portugal and started up a village here called Tamira. And we have also seen others, small villages in the eastern part of Germany, where such small villages have started up. However, if you visit these villages, you will recognize that they have somehow confined their thoughts inside the traditional European consciousness structure. But traditionally it was, it still is, so that your right side you use in the society consciousness, and your left side you use in your to your family consciousness. The Nazis in the 1930s and 40s changed, so the unity energy in your left side was used as a society political consciousness. But the Germans have went back to the traditional Western pattern, where the society consciousness is the right side. But in these German communities, you see that they have liberated themselves, so they can use both sides in family behavior and also both sides in their way of managing their villages and their communities. Sexually, you will find that they use the traditional European family consciousness when having a lover. A close relationship with security, caring, etc. And then they also have a sexuality with fun, excitement, etc. So they recognize two kinds of needs for sexuality. But you don't see any ideas, thoughts, wisdom about any of the other energy patterns. It's only the traditional European consciousness structure you will find in these communities. However, there has been a liberation, because traditionally Europeans have very split consciousness, where the feelings in the abdomen has been projected outside the eye, and also a very severe split in consciousness between one side containing your eye and another side containing your lover projected outside your eye. But in these German communities, this consciousness split does not exist. And you can, if they dance, you can see that they are a little bit more free in their abdomen, and also in the way they talk, the way they argue. There's a little bit more freedom. They can use both these energies in every situation. Going to the United States, however, we will see a lot of more liberating processes. Going back to the 1960s, 70s, in homosexual circles, gay people had this idea to have sex with a lot of different men, and it was not satisfying. So very often it developed so they got one lover. But having this traditional split energy pattern, you will come to a point with the inner split and the inner anger and hatred will make a divorce, and then you lose your lover, and then you will feel, oh, I'm jealous, I'm lost, what should I do? Well, you can have sex with different men again, and you again get a lover, but after some time you lose your lover again and have this jealous feeling. But then you come to the turning point. And the turning point is, having tried this many times, you suddenly recognize that this side that you have projected outside on a lover, that this side in fact is yourself. And you recognize it's as an empty eye. And then you start to sense your eye and recognize an inner little boy and develop it and find out, oh, I have not one eye and a lover, I have two eyes. I'm able to project one eye out on a lover, but I can also feel it as myself. And having past this turning point, your jealousy will be a force to get understanding about yourself. Then you are able to unite the two sides to one gathered eye, and then you will recognize that you not are alone, but you feel yourself connected to some friends, and then you will end up in a group of lovers. But you still have the ability to polarize yourself, and when you are polarized, you will feel one lover. So you have these two different kinds of love relationships. You have one primary lover, and then you have a love group. This was spread out to heterosexual people, and today in many big towns, in many big cities in the United States, we find some clubs with the polyamory people. And it is traditional heterosexual people that have realized that the good life is if this polyamory life, where you are able to have a lover, but you're also able to be yourself and be a part of a group family. These clubs have meetings and seminars, summer camps, etc., where people can exchange experiences. And listening to this or reading their letters in newspapers, magazines, etc., you can see that they do not try to understand all the energy patterns. But they are very much limiting themselves to the traditional Western consciousness. For example, here in the analyzed energy, with your head you control your abdomen. It's a very controlling consciousness. And then they say you shall not only be able to control yourself, you shall also be able to live with confusion. It is somehow to go up here to the release energy, because here I don't recognize this as confusion, but compared with the analyzed energy, this is confusing, because there's no control from your head. And also going over here to the unite energy, where you somehow have your feelings under control. They are talking about that you also could change your feelings to some more extreme way of expressing emotions. And going down here to the devote energy, you will find this person behaving in a way that receiving things and with the head expressing ideas, thoughts, etc. in a very strange way compared to the traditional way of expressing feelings. Going again to the analyzed energy, we have this individualism, and they talk about that you should be able to coordinate yourself with others. And somehow it's about the create energy here, where this coordination is a part of the consciousness. In the traditional relationship, in traditional way of consciousness, you have this analyzed energy to somehow suppress yourself. With your head you control and suppress your animal in your abdomen, and therefore you are a very kind person, but you could somehow skip this and go over here to the unite unity, and not only feel it in your family life, in your sexual life, but in your group, could mark your ego. And this is what the unity energy is about. Not only be some kind of selfish people, but also be able to recognize yourself as a part of a we. And again, this is the gather energy. They somehow have understood some of the elements from other energy patterns, but they have not in fact really studied the energy patterns, but they have related their activities in from the traditional consciousness structure to these other kinds of ways of behavior, fitting other energy patterns. There's been some surveys and asking people why have they moved into these polyamorous families instead of living in a nuclear family. Most people say it's because we want our children to have a good life. Maybe a little bit surprising, because many people have this idea that they have done it because they want more sex. But children is a big issue, and traditionally we have this suppression of children. In the age of 0.5 to 1.5 years, their abdomen should be suppressed and projected outside the eye. In the age of 3-4, they should somehow divide themselves in the self and the others, and all of these social processes is very, very hard for children and make a lot of problems in family life. But in this polyamorous group, where they have consciousness about energies and different kind of consciousnesses, then the children can be brought up in a more gentle way, learning what they need to learn, but do not need to be suppressed and split in their consciousness. So it's very much more loving family structure. It's very much easier and funny to live in these family groups. Some people think that in traditional nuclear family, well, you have one lover, and in this polyamorous group you have only a lot of lovers. But in fact, is that it's not going from one to many, it's going from a split consciousness with twosome relationship to go to a situation where you are able to sometimes polarize yourself and sense your lover, the primary lover, and other times unite yourself and recognize yourself as a part of your family. And united, you will also feel this a little bit larger group that might be the polyamorous club. Only the most intellectual, knowing people are aware that consciousness about polyamory also is a consciousness about society. Changing your family consciousness is also changing your social and political consciousness. And therefore you will find in these circles a lot of people concerned about ecology, environment, social phenomena, peace, etc., etc.